step besides just reaching out is to increase the funding through the state, so we have more advisors that can actually do the outreach to the students.
So this is a direct question to, excuse me, what's your name?
Jeremy.
Jeremy. First off, I want to just thank you for your service. Give her this guy a hand. And I don't think anybody here would question your work ethic or leadership, but oftentimes coming into a new leadership role, and it sounds like how you were phrasing yourself, that you don't have a lot of experience working with students in government affairs, that there's this steep learning curve where it takes some time for you actually to start producing results. I was wondering if you could provide maybe a little story of a time where you had to learn a lot quickly and get things in, or what skills you might have that would, or a plan for you to start this thing ground running.
Okay. If I can, I'll revert back to my Army. When I enlisted, I went to basic training. One of the things you do there is you are put into a platoon, and then in that platoon they choose 4 leaders. And I was brand new to the Army, didn't know anything about it, didn't even know how to march. And so I got there, and then I was singled out by my drill sergeant, and he said, "You're going to be one of the 4 leaders, and this is all the things you have to do. It's this, 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 and this." And I said, "I don't know how to do any of that." And he said, "Well, you're going to learn." And so I learned. I mean, when I'm put into a position, I learn quickly and I excel. That's why I've been able to do as well as I have. I was homeschooled through high school, and I went to college, and I had no idea how hard it was going to be. And I've had success. My GPA is rather high right now, and it hopefully will stay there. But I learn quickly and I adapt quickly. That's how I've been successful in my life. When I went to my college in Olympia, I played soccer there at the college. I had never played competitive soccer before, but I went and tried out for the team anyways, just because I loved the sport. And so I went out, and I didn't make the starting team, but I made the team. And then as the season went on, I eventually was starting every game. And it was just because I'm a quick learner. And so that, for me, it's not an issue for me to learn so much as it is an issue for me to just know what the unique problems are with the school, like all the students and all their diverse backgrounds. For me, I think it would be great. And then you mentioned I have no real AS experience, and that's true, I have none. And I think that's actually something that's a positive thing. I think that an outside perspective is more than useful on the AS board when everybody else has great experience. And I wish, yeah, that's how I would answer that.
Sarah?
This is a question for, I guess, anyone who wants to answer, and for everyone. As a member of the AS board, you don't just make decisions about things pertaining to your field, but you make a lot of decisions altogether. Decisions about what happens in AS offices or the divestment vote that happened earlier this year. So realizing that that might not necessarily represent your field, what sort of values would you use in making AS board decisions?
Are we just going to go left to right?
You want to just get on the line?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So making decisions on the AS board, I'm not just going to think about my office. I'm going to make a decision that is going to be for the greater good of the entire university. With the minority students who might be hurt, I'm not minority by race or ethnicity, but minority of students that would be affected by that big decision, or the majority of the students that would be. You have to keep everyone's best interests in mind, and you have to think about every single person, every single factor when you make a big decision. And that's important. I think sometimes people forget about that. But if I'm elected to serve on this board, I will represent every single student that goes to Western. I will not prioritize myself or anyone else over the greater good or the university population. Thank you.
Well, we would really have to work with each other to see what's going on and hear out what the students have to say. Sometimes students say things that are really idealistic. One time a student came up to me and asked me if we could turn the red square fountain into a giant jacuzzi, and we can't actually do that. But I mean, it's important to listen what they have to say, because even though they might not be as outlandish as that suggestion, there are concerns and problems people have with this campus that they really want us to know about and for us to possibly fix.
Well, I'm ready to engage in a lot of dialogue at the board meetings and as well as with the students who are aware of this, who want to raise who want to know more about the issues that we are going to vote about. So I know that even if it's something that I'm not well knowledged in, I know that we will have a support group as a board, and a lot of explanations, a lot of dialogue, and like they said, if basically we're elected, we're not going to like abuse this power or use it as a form of hierarchy. If we're elected by students, we're going to use their voices and represent them to the best of our abilities.
I echo what she says. Just seeking out the needs of the students. In my statement, I said that team-minded, being team-minded, coming together. Because I'm sure we'll disagree on issues, but that's why we're here, to have different perspectives and to come to consensus. And also just a heart for service. That's my main platform, seeking out the needs of students, serving them. The forums I mentioned that students can attend and the board of directors can sit on it, and we can just have dialogue, and really the students that want to be involved will be involved and will make change.
I would think just making sure that you ask the right questions of the other board members who are specialized, so that you get that insight into the decision. So it's not just, well, coming from the academic affairs side of this we should vote this way, but there's so many different sides to it, which is why there's so many different positions. And so really making sure that there is a strong dialogue and you're asking questions and having a good conversation on the board before you make a decision.
Yeah, and not only asking each other with our questions, I think also going out on your own and informing yourself and doing research, so that you can also bring a different perspective of things that maybe haven't been looked at. I think informing yourself is probably the best thing you can do to make an informed decision.
Yeah, informing yourself, asking questions, and also holding your board members accountable for things they say will make for like great board dynamics. And I already have experience working on the board as well, so.
I think realizing that you're representing the students that elected you, you're representing 15,000 students, and also making sure that you are reading the board documents and the documents that are presented to you. I know it can be really daunting to I've been to board meetings and I've tried to read the 30-page documents while just sitting there, and it's not an easy task. So making sure you're keeping up to date and being able to lean on your fellow VPs and the president and ask. Yeah, I really like that part about asking questions.
Yeah, and I think really the best way to serve students is to, have collaborative, constructive conversations with each other as board members, because there will be times when we vehemently would disagree, and I've definitely seen that in the boards that I've seen since I've been with the AS. But when you have those rational conversations, when you have those constructive conversations, you can at least see where the other side is coming from and maybe, update your own views so that they better fit what fits students.
Borrowing from everybody else said, I'm last in the line here, so I would disagree a little bit. I'd say it's important that you have to delegate. You have to know, for me specifically, I will know, if I'm elected, I will know my position, and I will know it inside and out. And then I will expect all my other VPs and the president to know exactly what it is they need to know, because I don't claim to know everything. I can't know everything. And so I will do research on my own. I think that's key. But you also have to be an expert on your thing. And so I think that's the big thing. You have to know your stuff better than everybody else in the room and be able to educate everybody else in the room as well. If you can't do that, then you can't do your job effectively, and then everybody else, it'll lack. The position will lack. Doesn't matter if it's government affairs, academics, whatever it is.
I think we have one more question. Okay.
Okay, so in the past, the AS is near and dear to my heart, and it's since my freshman year. However, there's been this kind of negative connotation where a lot of you have already talked about the students, but we also need to think about the AS employees as well, because you're all part of the team. But there's been the board attitude and then the employees. So how will you all work together to ensure that you slowly are changing that perspective, because we're all in it together, that if
employees and the board are working together, so how will you ensure that you're not only working together, but people are being appreciated where they should be, recognition is given where it's due, and all of that? And any of you can answer.
Is this for everybody? We're gonna go down.
Let's go back that other way.
So, I'm not too familiar with the board processes. I haven't been involved with it, obviously. But yeah, it's key that everybody gets their due credit. If you don't do it, then what's the motivation for whoever's actually putting the work in to keep doing that work? I think that there are so many things you can do, and it doesn't have to be a gradual process between the employees and the board members. It could be a sweeping change that happens overnight. Why does it have to be this slow, gradual thing? I don't know if the board members' meetings are closed. Are they not?
Open meetings are.
Open meetings? So there's no reason why we can't just invite members in all the time. Come in, sit down, have a meeting with us, and then ask questions. Or maybe we can have it so it's televised, and so you don't have to be in the room physically with us. We can have it on a website somewhere. And then you can just tune in if you want, kind of like TVW does for the Legislative Assembly. So if we do something like that, I think it would be fantastic. And then engagement, involvement, and credit where it's due.
Yeah, I mean, I think I bring an interesting perspective to this table as an employee who has worked for the AS for 2 years. But then too, last year I did feel a little bit alienated by the current board at that time. And really what I realized that I had to do was just to reach out to the board. You know, I was so frustrated my first year working in the Legal Information Center on renters' rights and trying to reach out to people. But what I realized was that really if you're reaching out to people and you're letting the board know that that something's a problem and show them that it's a problem, you know, I believe wholeheartedly that the board will reciprocate because we're all professional, we're all employees working together, you know, we're all part of the AS.
I also kind of find this a hard question to answer. As also working in the Associated Students, I've always found the board to be really accessible and haven't felt that alienation. But I do think it's important to continue that trend of not trying to not alienate AS employees, because I feel like we're all here for the same reason, and that's to have not civic engagement, but to be involved with students.
Yeah. Okay. Building off of involvement with students. I wasn't even aware of any of the board members like last year, but this year I feel like since I know them and have that personal connection with them, it's easier for me to talk to them and approach them and things like that. So developing that relationship with students on their level and meeting them at their level is what I think is necessary.
So I think the VP for Activities has a huge potential to collaborate with each and every single one of the offices at the AS. And actually, in one of my issues addressing firm saturation, I would be not forced because I would love to, collaborate with each and every one of them. So I think it would be one of my goals to actually go around the AS and talk to people, which is actually really fun to do already. And also, I don't know if this is what you meant as well, but the AS has a negative connotation like outside, like from an outside perspective. And to address that, I think that I would collaborate with other entities on campus, like the admissions office would be a huge one, Res Life would be another huge one. And I think Res Life is often a mine of gold that nobody taps into, you know, like there's freshmen and they're the people, the students that are going to continue on everything. So I think that we just need to reach out to them to take that negativity away from the AS and tell them what we're about and what we want for them.
So was your question more about the internal, like between the AS board and the offices? Okay, well, I guess with the, internally, when it comes to, I know that there is some separation between the board and the other offices at the AS. I haven't experienced it a lot myself because I know that the rep is highly involved with the board because they fill their committees. But I think that just making sure that the board members are active in their office, not managing them too much, but actually staying in contact with them and making sure that it's more of a team effort rather than saying, hey, you know, rep, do this and get this outcome. But beyond that, also making sure that the board members reach out a little bit beyond just their own offices so that they can make the events more collaborative so that they reach more students.
Yeah, I agree. I haven't really felt that sense of alienation. I am an AS employee as well, and Myra's come down to the ESC or DANG, so I've kind of built that relationship. But I also think communication is important. This might sound cheesy, but maybe luncheons for all AS employees and AS board, just to build that community dynamic, so that there's no misconception of, we're better than you or anything like that. Luncheons, communication, and just tapping into those resources that we may not know about, and also just keeping the communication strong, making sure our committees are doing what they're supposed to be doing, and like I said, building that community so that we can better the community outside.
So, kind of like what everyone else has said, I'm also an AS employee. I work for the Disability Outreach Center, and I haven't had any experiences of feeling disconnected with the board. I mean, I know Myra pretty well, maybe too well, good defense. But also like I've seen her make the effort to go to different offices and outreach. And I know that as a board of director, there would be different programs with all the offices. Like there's no limitation or restriction. And also I've learned through my experience with the AS. I've had experience collaborating with different offices, so I also know the concept of like acknowledging and holding people accountable. Like if you work collaboratively on something, you're not going to take all the credit, you're not going to give someone else all the credit.